Family reunions should be about laughter and reconnecting, not betrayal. That weekend at my house started perfectly. My father-in-law Harold's 60th birthday surrounded by loved ones. Throughout the evening, I noticed my brother-in-law Jackson disappearing periodically, his eyes following me with unusual interest. The next morning, I checked my banking app. $76,000. Gone. When confronted, Jackson just snorted. "We needed it more than you." My heart raced as Amanda, my wife, stood silently beside her family. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted. I had always been careful with money. As a 32-year-old software engineer, I spent the last decade building a solid financial foundation. My parents taught me early that security comes from saving, not showing off. That discipline helped me purchase our modest three-bedroom house in a quiet suburb and maintain a substantial emergency fund. Especially important, given my congenital heart condition that required occasional treatments and medications. 4 years ago, I married Amanda after a whirlwind romance. She was everything I wanted: intelligent, compassionate, and grounded, or so I thought. We shared dreams of starting a family once we had saved enough for a larger home in a better school district. Our life together felt perfect, built on mutual respect and shared goals. Amanda's family was another story entirely. Her father, Harold, worked as a bank manager while her mother, Diane, ran a small boutique downtown. They seemed reasonable enough, though they occasionally made comments about our simple lifestyle that felt backhanded. The real challenge was Amanda's older sister, Stephanie, and her husband, Jackson. Jackson considered himself a financial genius. He worked in real estate and constantly talked about his big deals and investment opportunities. At every family gathering, he would arrive with stories about his latest expensive purchase, a boat of vacation property designer watches. Stephanie supported his every boast, flashing her jewelry and designer clothes like badges of honor. "You really should loosen those purse strings," Solomon Jackson would say, slapping my back too hard. "Life's too short to pinch pennies." I would smile politely, knowing that behind their flashy lifestyle was mounting credit card debt. Amanda had once mentioned that Stephanie called asking to borrow money when one of their credit cards was declined at a restaurant. Still, I kept these thoughts to myself, preferring peace to confrontation. When Harold's 60th birthday approached, Amanda suggested hosting the celebration at our home. "It will save them the expense of renting a venue," she explained. I agreed, wanting to make a good impression. We spent weeks preparing, deep cleaning, buying new guest linens, planning the menu. The biggest expense was Harold's gift. Amanda had her heart set on a vintage Omega watch her father had admired in an antique shop window months earlier. At $4,000, it stretched our budget, but seeing her excitement made it worthwhile. I transferred the money from our savings account to checking, leaving my laptop open while I helped Amanda with the decorations. "They want to stay for the weekend after the party," Amanda mentioned casually 3 days before the event. "Mom and Dad will take the guest room, and Stephanie and Jackson can use the office pullout. That way, they won't need to pay for hotels." I hesitated, but agreed. Family was important to Amanda, and I wanted to support that connection, even if her sister and brother-in-law made me uncomfortable. The birthday celebration began wonderfully. Harold beamed when he unwrapped the watch, pulling me into a rare hug. "This is too much, son," he said, voice thick with emotion. Diane wiped away tears, and even Stephanie seemed genuinely moved by our generosity. Only Jackson maintained his usual demeanor, eyes calculating as he examined the watch. "Must have set you back a pretty penny," he remarked, a strange edge to his voice. "Business must be booming in the tech world." Throughout the evening, I noticed Jackson disappearing periodically. Once I went looking for the bathroom and found him quickly stepping away from our home office. "Just taking a business call," he explained, phone conspicuously absent from his hand. I thought little of it at the time, distracted by hosting duties and the warm atmosphere of celebration. As we cleared dessert plates, Jackson cornered me in the kitchen. "So what are software engineers making these days?" "Six figures, right." His questions felt invasive, but I deflected with vague answers about the industry average. His interest seemed excessive, but I brushed it off as his usual preoccupation with money and status. Little did I know that beneath his probing questions lurked a desperate man about to make a decision that would shatter my trust and change all our lives forever. The next morning, I woke earlier than everyone else, my mind already cycling through the day's hosting responsibilities. Making my way downstairs to start coffee, I noticed my laptop had been moved from where I left it on the desk. The chair was pulled out slightly, and the screen position had changed. A chill ran through me, though I couldn't yet articulate why. As I reset the password, I noticed fingerprints on the screen that weren't mine. Someone had been using my computer. Before I could investigate further, I heard hushed voices from the guest bathroom, Jackson and Stephanie arguing in urgent whispers. "They'll never notice if we pay it back next month," Jackson insisted. "The interest rate alone is killing us." "We promised we'd stop doing this," Stephanie hissed back. "What if Solomon checks? That uptight penny pincher probably counts his toilet paper squares." Jackson laughed. "Trust me, he won't notice until we've replaced it." Their voices moved away, and I stepped back from the hallway, heart pounding. What were they planning? Or worse, what had they already done? During breakfast, Jackson avoided eye contact, shoveling eggs into his mouth while checking his phone obsessively. Stephanie seemed jittery, spilling orange juice and apologizing profusely. Harold and Diane, oblivious to the tension, suggested taking everyone out for a drive around town. "Solomon, you look tired," Amanda said. "Why don't you stay home and rest while we show my parents that new shopping district?" The screen loaded, and I stared in disbelief at the balance, $78.16. Just yesterday, our checking account had held over $76,000. Our emergency fund, heart medication money, and house down payment savings all consolidated for an upcoming investment. My hands trembled as I clicked through the transaction history. 6 separate transfers, all to an account I didn't recognize, processed between midnight and 4 a.m., when everyone should have been asleep. The largest was $30,000, described as investment opportunity payment. I called the bank immediately, barely able to speak coherently to the representative. Yes, the transactions appeared legitimate. They came from my IP address, my computer with my login credentials. No, there were no signs of hacking. Yes, they could freeze the receiving account, but funds might already have been withdrawn. They would investigate, but I should file a police report immediately. For 3 hours, I sat motionless, staring at the wall, occasionally checking the account in disbelief. The life we had built, the security we had sacrificed for, gone in a single night. By someone who sat across from me at breakfast, looking me in the eye while hiding this betrayal. When I heard cars in the driveway, I composed myself as best I could. The family streamed in, shopping bags in hand, laughing about some incident at the mall. I watched them, especially Jackson, with new eyes. His easy smile, his confident stride, all built on lies and theft. "Hey, computer whiz," Jackson called, tossing his jacket on my couch. "You missed a great lunch. We put it on your tab." He laughed at his own joke. "Did anyone use my laptop last night?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. The room stilled. Amanda looked confused. "Why would anyone need your laptop?" "Just wondering," I said, watching their faces carefully. "Someone moved it, and I thought maybe someone needed to check email." "Not me," Jackson said quickly. "Too quickly. Nobody touched your things," Solomon, Diane assured me. "We respect your privacy." "That's interesting," I said, turning my laptop around to show them the screen. "Because someone used it to empty our bank account last night." The reaction was immediate. Harold's face drained of color. Diane gasped. Stephanie grabbed the countertop for support. Only Jackson maintained composure, though a muscle twitched in his jaw. "What are you talking about?" Amanda rushed to my side, staring at the screen in horror. "This has to be a mistake." $76,000, I said. "Transferred out in the middle of the night from this computer, while everyone was staying in our home." "Are you accusing us of stealing?" Stephanie's voice rose shrilly. "Your own family, I'm stating facts," I replied. "Money gone, transfers from this house. You do the math." Amanda put her hand on my arm. "Solomon, there must be some explanation. Maybe you were hacked." "The bank says no. The transfers came from this computer, this house, using my login that was saved on this laptop." All eyes turned to Jackson, who had been suspiciously quiet. He shrugged, a slight smile playing at the corner of his mouth. "Maybe you should have logged out." Something in his tone, the lack of surprise, the hint of satisfaction, confirmed my suspicions. "It was you," I said, not a question, but a statement. For a moment he seemed about to deny it. Then, astonishingly, he straightened his shoulders and nodded. Fine. Yes. I transferred the money. Jackson. Stephanie cried out, horror in her voice. What have you done? What needed to be done? He replied, suddenly defiant. We're about to lose the house, Steph. The bank called yesterday. Final notice. I did what I had to do. By stealing from us, I couldn't believe his admission, his justification. Borrowing, he corrected as if the distinction mattered. We'll pay it back once my investment matures next month. What investment? Harold interrupted, his banker's instincts triggered. Jackson hesitated. It's complicated. Real estate opportunity. Big returns. Like the last three that failed, Stephanie whispered, then covered her mouth. The truth unfolded like a horrible accident in slow motion. Jackson's successful real estate career was a facade. Their lavish lifestyle was built on maxed-out credit cards and home equity loans. They were underwater on their mortgage, car loans, and personal debts. The final notice wasn't an exaggeration. Foreclosure was imminent. So you stole our savings. I could barely process the betrayal. Money we worked years to save. Jackson's expression hardened. We needed it more than you. You and Amanda are young, no kids, both with good jobs. You can save it up again. That money was for my heart condition, I said quietly, and our future children's college fund, and the down payment on our forever home. For a moment, doubt flickered across Jackson's face. Then it vanished, replaced by cold calculation. Medical insurance should cover your heart. Stop being so dramatic. I turned to Amanda, expecting shared outrage, unified horror at her brother-in-law's actions. Instead, I found her eyes downcast, her expression torn. Amanda, I prompted, disbelief growing. Say something. She looked up, tears streaming down her face. Maybe we could work something out. A payment plan. They are family, Solomon. The second betrayal hit harder than the first. My own wife suggesting we work something out with the man who had stolen our life savings while sleeping under our roof. You can't be serious, I whispered. They have nowhere else to turn, she pleaded. We have each other, good jobs. We can recover. Harold cleared his throat. Solomon, son, perhaps we could discuss this rationally. Family helps family. I looked around the room, suddenly seeing clearly for the first time. They were all complicit in their silence, protecting Jackson, minimizing his crime, expecting me to absorb the loss because I was the responsible one, because I had been careful, because I had saved. You knew, I said to Stephanie. You knew, and you let him do this. She couldn't meet my eyes. Confirmation enough. Jackson, sensing the family rallying around him, grew bolder. Always knew you were too uptight for this family. Counting every penny, judging our lifestyle. Maybe this will teach you that money isn't everything. The irony of his statement, as he justified stealing my money, was almost too much to bear. I felt a familiar tightness in my chest, the warning sign of stress affecting my heart. I needed to calm down, to think clearly. Solomon, please. Amanda touched my arm. Let's just calm down and figure this out as a family. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about money. It was about respect, boundaries, and trust, all violated beyond repair. My hands trembled as I looked at each face around me. Calculating Jackson, tearful Stephanie, conflicted Amanda, uncomfortable Harold, and Diane. The room seemed to spin slightly as my heart raced, the familiar warning signs of stress affecting my condition. But this time the physical pain paled compared to the emotional betrayal cutting through me. $76,000. I repeated, my voice, finding new strength. Years of overtime, skipped vacations, and careful planning. Money set aside for medical emergencies and our future children. We all make sacrifices for family, Jackson countered somehow, making himself the victim. When Stephanie and I needed help, where was your generosity then? You never asked for help, I said quietly. You stole in the night like thieves instead of coming to us honestly. Jackson laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. Would you have given it Mr. Frugal with his precious savings account? The question hung in the air. Would I have helped if they had approached us honestly about their financial troubles? Probably. Not with $76,000, but with something. With a plan. With respect. I looked into Amanda's eyes, searching for the woman I married, the partner I thought I had. Instead, I saw someone torn between loyalties, unable to stand firmly for what was right. In that moment of clarity, I saw our entire relationship differently. The small compromises, the subtle favoritism toward her family, the way my concerns were often minimized. "I need everyone to sit down," I said, surprising myself with the authority in my voice. Each person found a seat, watching me warily. I took a moment to look at each face, memorizing this moment when everything changed. "There are two paths forward from this moment," I explained calmly. "One where we pretend this is a family loan, and I absorb the loss of my savings. The other where I treat this as what it actually is, theft, and respond accordingly." Solomon, Amanda whispered, pleading. I raised my hand, silencing her. "I'm not finished." For 10 minutes, I had been texting under the table, contacting my best friend Paul, who worked at the regional bank, then the local police department. As I spoke to the family, I was stalling, waiting. "You took everything from me." I continued, addressing Jackson directly. "Not just money, trust, security, the foundation of my marriage. And for what? So you could keep pretending to be successful for a few more months." Jackson's smug expression faltered. "You're being melodramatic. It's just money." "If it's just money," I replied, reaching for my bag beside the couch, "then you won't mind what's coming next." "What's that supposed to mean?" Stephanie asked, anxiety creeping into her voice. Jackson laughed, but it sounded hollow. "What are you going to do? Call the police on family?" As if summoned by his words, a loud bang shook the front door. 3 sharp knocks echoed through the house. The door swung open, revealing 2 uniformed officers flanked by Paul in his bank manager's suit. "Solomon Walker," one officer asked, spotting me. "We received your report about fund theft from your accounts." The room erupted in chaos. Jackson jumped to his feet, pointing at me accusingly. "This is a family matter. He gave me access. That's not what the bank records show." Paul interjected, nodding to me apologetically. "The transactions occurred at 2 a.m., with unusual account verification attempts beforehand." I had never seen Jackson truly afraid until that moment. His face drained of color as he realized what was happening. "You can't do this," he whispered. "I already have," I replied. "I called the bank the moment I discovered the theft, before confronting any of you. The receiving account is frozen. The police report was filed electronically an hour ago." Amanda grabbed my arm. "Solomon, please. We can work this out without involving the police." I gently removed her hand. The time for working things out was before he stole our money. The time for family loyalty was when you first heard what he did. The officers moved toward Jackson, who backed away. "This is ridiculous. Tell them, Stephanie, Harold, Diane." Harold stood ashen-faced. "What did you do with the money?" Son Jackson's silence told everyone what we needed to know. There was no legitimate investment. The money was likely already spent paying off urgent debts or purchased luxuries they couldn't afford. "Jackson Miller, you're under arrest for theft and wire fraud," the officer stated, reaching for handcuffs. "You have the right to remain silent." "Solomon, you can't do this," Stephanie cried. "He's family. What about our children?" "What about our children?" I asked quietly, looking at Amanda. "The ones we planned to have. The ones this money was partly saved for." As the officers led Jackson toward the door, he turned back with venom in his eyes. "This isn't over. Family doesn't do this to family." "Exactly," I replied. "Family doesn't steal from family." Stephanie rushed after him, sobbing. Harold and Diane stood awkwardly caught between their daughters, one married to the criminal, one married to the victim. They followed Stephanie outside, murmuring apologies I barely registered. Then it was just Amanda and me in the sudden silence. "How could you?" she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "How could I repeated incredulously. "How could you stand there and defend him after what he did? He's my sister's husband, my family. And what am I?" She had no answer, at least not one she was willing to give me. I walked to our bedroom closet and pulled out a small suitcase I'd packed while waiting for everyone to return from their outing. I had hoped desperately that this scenario wouldn't play out this way, that Amanda would stand with me, that the family would see the gravity of Jackson's actions. "What are you doing?" Amanda asked, watching me gather my laptop and essential documents. "I need some space to think. I'm going to stay with my brother for a few days." "You're leaving me now." The disbelief in her voice would have been comical if it weren't so painful. I'm leaving this situation. You chose your side pretty clearly today. I didn't choose a side. I was trying to keep peace in the family. I paused at the door, turning back to look at her. That's the problem, Amanda. When someone steals $76,000, peace shouldn't be the priority. Justice should be. As I walked to my car, I passed Harold and Diane comforting a sobbing Stephanie on the porch. They looked up as I approached, their expressions a mixture of shame and resentment. I hope it was worth it, Harold said quietly. I stopped, surprised by his comment. Worth what? Tearing the family apart, getting Jackson arrested. The absurdity nearly made me laugh. I didn't tear this family apart, Harold. Jackson did that when he decided to steal our life savings instead of asking for help. I continued to my car, feeling their eyes on my back. My hands shook as I put the key in the ignition, but as I pulled away from the curb, something unexpected happened. Beneath the pain and betrayal, I felt something else. Strength. I had stood up for myself, refused to be the family doormat, and held someone accountable for their actions. For the first time in my adult life, I had chosen myself over others' expectations. And despite everything I had lost that day, that realization felt remarkably like winning. 2 months after Jackson's arrest, I sat across from my lawyer in a sterile downtown office. The criminal case was proceeding. Jackson had prior financial fraud charges I'd never known about, which strengthened the prosecution's position. Today, however, we were discussing something else entirely. The divorce papers are ready for your signature, Sarah Jenkins said, sliding the document across her desk. Amanda has already reviewed them with her attorney and agreed to the terms. My hand hovered over the signature line, memories flashing through my mind. After I left that day, Amanda had vacillated between anger and desperate reconciliation attempts. We tried counseling for 3 sessions, but each time circled back to the same fundamental issue. She believed family loyalty should have trumped legal consequences. He would have paid it back. Eventually, she insisted during our final session. You didn't have to destroy his life. He destroyed his own life, I replied wearily, along with our marriage. The counselor had looked between us, seeing what I already knew. There was no bridging this divide. Our values were fundamentally incompatible. I signed the papers, feeling a complicated mixture of grief and relief. What about the money? I asked. Any updates? Sarah sighed. The bank recovered about $17,000 from the frozen account. The rest? She shook her head. Jackson and Stephanie had already used most of it to pay their mortgage arrears and credit card minimums. The court has ordered restitution, but with Jackson, unemployed and in legal trouble. I'll never see it, I finished her thought. $59,000 gone, along with my marriage, my relationship with Amanda's family, and my sense of security. Walking out of the lawyer's office, I called my brother Ryan, who had given me his spare bedroom these past weeks. It's done, I told him. Papers signed. Come over, he said immediately. I'm grilling steaks and Emma's making her potato salad. No celebrations, just family dinner. Family. The word had new meaning now. Not obligation or blind loyalty, but earned trust and mutual respect. That evening, surrounded by my brother's family, I told them I was moving to Boston. A tech company there had offered me a senior developer position with better benefits and a substantial salary increase. The distance from memories felt necessary for healing. You sure about this? Solomon Ryan asked, concern etched on his face. Running away won't fix things. I'm not running away, I explained. I'm running toward something new, a fresh start. 2 weeks later, I stood in my empty apartment, Boston's skyline, visible through floor-to-ceiling windows. The company had arranged temporary housing while I looked for a permanent place. The bare rooms echoed with possibility rather than loss. My phone vibrated, a text from Paul with updates on Jackson's case. He had taken a plea deal, 18 months in prison, 5 years probation, and court-ordered restitution I would likely never see. Stephanie had filed for divorce, unable to handle the public shame and financial ruin. I felt no satisfaction at their downfall, only sadness for the unnecessary destruction one man's entitlement had caused. I deleted the message without responding and unpacked my laptop instead. 3 months into my Boston life, I received an unexpected email from Harold. He and Diane wanted to meet to apologize in person. They were visiting their niece in Cambridge the following weekend. Against my better judgment, I agreed to coffee. Seeing them was harder than I expected. They had aged visibly, stress etched into the lines around their eyes. Harold spoke first, his voice steady, despite his obvious discomfort. "We failed you, Solomon. We should have stood for what was right instead of protecting Jackson." Diane nodded, tears in her eyes. "When we look back at how we behaved, we're ashamed. Truly ashamed." Their apology was sincere, their regret palpable. I accepted it with grace, but maintained the boundary I had established. Some bridges once burned couldn't be rebuilt, only acknowledged from opposite shores. "How is Amanda?" I asked, surprised to find I could speak her name without pain. "Working through things," Harold said carefully. "She moved to Chicago last month, teaching position at a private school." I nodded, genuinely glad she was moving forward, too. We said our goodbyes with handshakes and awkward half-hugs, all of us knowing this was likely our final meeting. 6 months turned into a year. My work at the tech company flourished, earning me a promotion and equity options. I bought a townhouse in a quiet neighborhood, joined a recreational basketball league, and started volunteering at a financial literacy program for young adults. There I met Eliza, a financial advisor who taught budgeting classes on weekends. Our friendship developed slowly, cautiously on my part. When I finally told her my full story over dinner one night, her response surprised me. "Thank you for trusting me with that," she said simply. "It explains why you're so passionate about teaching financial boundaries. No judgment, no questioning my decisions, just understanding." We began dating a month later. On our 1-year anniversary, Eliza suggested something unexpected: starting a foundation for victims of family financial abuse. "Your experience isn't unique," she explained, "and most victims never report it because of the family dynamics." We launched the Trust and Boundaries Foundation 6 months later, providing legal advice, emotional support, and emergency grants to people betrayed by family members. Each time we helped someone stand up for themselves and establish healthy financial boundaries, I felt another piece of my own healing lock into place. 2 years after the family reunion that changed everything, I stood at the altar with Eliza beside me, exchanging vows before our closest friends and my side of the family. The journey to this day had been unexpected, painful, and ultimately transformative. My brother Ryan, serving as best man, summarized it perfectly in his toast. "Solomon lost what he thought was everything, only to find what truly mattered: his self-worth, his boundaries, and eventually his perfect partner in Eliza." Life continues to surprise me. The heart condition that once threatened my future has stabilized with new treatments. Eliza and I welcomed our daughter Julia last spring, her existence a daily reminder that sometimes we have to lose our original path to find the right one. I still think about that family reunion sometimes, the moment when Jackson snorted, "We needed it more than you," revealing the entitlement that destroyed so many lives. In that moment, I could have surrendered to family pressure, abandoned my principles for peace. Instead, I reached for my bag, made that call, and changed the course of my life. Sometimes the most valuable thing we can learn is not how to trust others, but how to trust ourselves. To recognize when a relationship damages rather than nurtures us. To understand that love without respect is merely manipulation. To know that standing alone for what's right is better than standing together for what's wrong. If you've ever faced betrayal from those closest to you, I hope you find the courage to protect your boundaries. Has family pressure ever made you compromise your values? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of resilience and self-discovery. Remember, true family, whether blood or chosen, lifts you up rather than tears you down. Thank you for listening, and may you find the strength to choose yourself when it matters most.